Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful and honestly most misunderstood concepts in all of Buddhist philosophy, Shunyata. It's a single word that, if you really get it, can totally change how you see yourself and, well, everything. So let's unpack it together.
Okay, let's just get this out of the way right now. The big question. When you hear the word emptiness, your mind probably jumps to some pretty bleak places, right? A cold, dark void, a feeling that nothing matters. But what if I told you that's a complete mistranslation of the idea?
Look at this. It's a total flip of the script. Where we might see a void of despair, Buddhist wisdom sees a space just brimming with infinite possibility. Where we think nothingness, it's actually showing us the truth of how everything is connected. This isn't about nihilism, it's the complete opposite. It's a doorway to a much deeper understanding.
So let's get right into it and really unpack what Śūnyatā actually means. We're going to go way beyond that kind of scary-sounding word and get to the beautiful wisdom at its core.
The word Śūnyatā comes from the Sanskrit root shunya, which can mean zero. But in this philosophy, it means that things are empty of a separate, standalone self. Get this, it's not saying that nothing exists, it's saying that nothing exists by itself. Everything, and I mean everything, comes into being because of a whole web of causes and conditions.
The Buddha put it so simply, so perfectly with this line, "When this is, that is." Think about it. A tree can't exist without the sun, the soil, the rain. You can't exist without the air you're breathing, the food you ate, or the countless generations that came before you. It's all leaning on everything else. Okay, I know this can feel a little heady, a little abstract. So let's use a really beautiful metaphor to make this whole idea tangible, something you can really feel. The wave and the ocean. Just for a second, picture a single wave moving across the surface of the sea. You can see it clearly, right? It has a shape, a form, it looks like its own thing. It rises up, it crests, and then it falls away. It has a beginning and an end. We can point to it and say, hey, look at that wave. For a moment, it has its own identity. Kind of sounds like us, doesn't it? But here's the kicker. Is that wave really separate? Of course not. It's made of ocean. You can't pull the wave out of the ocean and have anything left. Its entire existence depends on the water, the wind, the gravity of the moon. It has no independent self. It is the ocean, just taking on a temporary form. And this is the big aha moment. The wave's identity as a separate thing was just an illusion, a temporary appearance. In the exact same way, Śūnyatā teaches us that our own deeply held sense of being a separate me is also a kind of illusion. We were never apart from the universe to begin with.
And when that feeling of separation starts to dissolve, it doesn't leave a gaping hole or a void. Oh no. It reveals what was underneath all along, this incredible sense of oneness with everything, a natural upwelling of compassion, and a crystal clear view of how things really are.
Now, this mind-blowing idea didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It has an incredibly rich philosophical history. So let's take a quick look at how this wisdom was developed and refined over hundreds of years. So the seeds were definitely planted by the Buddha himself, but it was this genius philosopher, Nagarjuna, a few centuries later, who really fleshed it all out. He developed what's called the middle way, which perfectly navigates between the extremes of everything is real and permanent and nothing exists at all. And later, you get amazing texts like the Heart Sutra, which distilled all this deep philosophy into pure poetry. And Nagarjuna gave this really powerful warning. He's basically saying if you mistake emptiness for meaninglessness, you're in for a world of hurt. You've grabbed the snake by the wrong end. But if you grasp it correctly as profound interdependence, it becomes the very path to freedom. This right here is probably the most famous and most confusing line ever written on the topic. What could it possibly mean? Well, it means that the solid physical world we see around us, form, is not separate from this deep underlying reality of interconnectedness. They're two sides of the same coin. The wave is the water is temporarily the wave. You can't have one without the other.
Okay, that's some amazing philosophy, but how does this actually help us? In our real lives, with our jobs and our stress and everything else. How can we turn this into a practical tool for finding a bit more freedom? There's a really simple way to experience this for yourself, and it's just by watching your own mind. Sit quietly for a minute, you'll see that your thoughts and emotions act just like little waves. They pop up out of nowhere, they hang around for a bit, and then they dissolve right back into the silence they came from. They're not solid. They're not permanent.
And the result is, honestly, life-changing. When you stop grabbing onto every thought and every emotion and labeling it me or mine, you stop being pushed around by them. A space opens up, a deep sense of peace. That space is the freedom that comes from understanding emptiness.
And when you start to live from this understanding, your whole way of being in the world starts to shift. You find yourself becoming more open, more balanced, and, you guessed it, more compassionate. Because that hard line you drew between yourself and everyone else starts to get a little blurry. So let's bring it all home. The single most important thing to remember is that Shunyata is not an empty, dead void. Not at all. It's a dynamic, living reality. It's seeing that the entire universe is one shimmering web of connection, where every single thread is vibrating with every other. It's an emptiness that's absolutely pregnant with potential. This Zen saying just captures it perfectly. Seeing that everything is interconnected and impermanent doesn't make the world dull or meaningless. It does the exact opposite. You start to see the staggering, miraculous beauty in every single thing, because you know it's all part of this one magnificent, fleeting dance. And this, right here, is why it matters so much. This isn't just an intellectual game. Truly understanding that we are all interconnected, that we inter-are, is the absolute bedrock of compassion. When you realize, deep in your bones, that you and I aren't really separate, kindness just becomes the most natural, logical response. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to really chew on. What if you're not a tiny, separate person looking out at a big, scary universe? What if you are the universe, waking up for just a brief, beautiful moment to become aware of itself through your eyes?